1 2 test, 1 2 test. Alrighty. Yee. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Politics, Culture, and Some Other Shit, the podcast. As always, you can lend me your support for £1 a month over on Patreon. Helps me keep the lights on here at Super 8 Ecotronic. And or if you want to just do a one-time donation, you can go over to Buy Me a Coffee and do it there. Please like, share, subscribe, do all the thing, and jump over to the YouTube, and you can watch the video of this. And again, if you want to watch the video ad-free, you can do that at Patreon. So there we go. So we're going to talk about, well, sadly, it's not the only story. I have a few things to talk about, but essentially what's being referred to as the race riots that happened all over England and Northern Ireland, and what's also unbelievably, and this is the bit that is extra hard to get your head around, people coming up from Dublin, and I don't know how to. I just don't know what to say about it. I really don't. I'm still trying to figure out what the fuck happened. That the Kulak Says No protesters came up and stood alongside British loyalists. Now, I understand these people aren't Irish Republicans. They are Free Staters, West Brit bastards. That's what they are. People like me, an Irish nationalist, living in the north of Ireland, aspiring for a united Ireland. Those fuckers will leave people like me out to dry and don't care, as long as they're alright. I'm going to look into it. We've got a few things, a few videos to show you, hopefully a few explainers as to there's dark money behind this stuff. Who people like Tommy Robinson and Tristan Tate and people like that, who these people are. And also I'm going to show you some video. I went to, there was a protest in Dundalk where these Kulak Says No types, anti-immigration protesters are protesting. It's the third week in a row they've protested in Dundalk, and the reason being is that there's an immigration centre being built there. Now we're going to talk about that, and you might not like what I have to say, because it's not just as straightforward as you might think, all this stuff. So I'm going to be very brave. I'm going to say stuff that you might not like. You might not think, me being an old fucking commie and all the rest of it, but you're going to hear some stuff here, and we'll see how we get on. First thing I'm going to say, and this is important. I'm going to show you. Actually, I'm going to just stick this up on the screen while I'm saying it, because it is kind of really the point. So there we go. Before I start this podcast and show you the videos and give you my take, spin, whatever on the whole thing. Well, this is my take, spin on the whole thing. One of the things that I will not do is I will not dismiss genuine working class communities and people's concerns, of which there are some, and they're legitimate. Housing concerns, cost of living concerns, and bear with me, this is where it might get controversial. Immigration concerns. Some people are genuinely concerned. They're not being consulted in what's going on. They don't understand what's going on. They're seeing various governments around the world, south of Ireland and the UK, seemingly completely changing the demographics of their communities and their societies without any consultation for them at all, with them at all. And I think that that's a genuine concern for a person. if that's the sort of thing you want to concern yourself with. Now, that doesn't mean that you have the right to go out and set fire to immigration centres, businesses owned by Syrian refugees. And we need to see this also from a geopolitical perspective. You're living in your housing estate in Belfast or Dublin or Sheffield or Rotherham or wherever, right? And you're seeing changes happening in your society, in your community, and you're not comfortable with it. And I know that if I say to you, you need to see this through a geopolitical lens, you might tell me to get fucked. What are you talking about? I only see what I'm seeing on the ground, and I understand that. But there was a man in Belfast who had a supermarket burnt out at the weekend. He's a Syrian refugee. And I think I heard him say it was the third time he's been attacked. I know where a supermarket is. I pass it quite often whenever I go up to Belfast to meet Chris. If you don't ask yourself the question, why is that man here? Then you're not understanding the scope and the dynamic involved in the problem. As you see it, the problem. I'd say his problem too, because I genuinely believe that no one wants to leave their own country. Most people don't want to leave their own country. Most people want to live in their own country. But they're forced to leave. They don't choose to come here. This rainy, cold, damp island from a Mediterranean paradise. They're forced to come here. And why are they forced to come here? Because our capitalists and our political leaders have decided that they're going to use our tax money to buy missiles and bombs, load them onto planes, and drop them from a mile up in the sky and just turn their countries into dust, removing all opportunities and, in many cases, life itself. And when that happens, you're forced to face your reality. Do you stay or do you leave? And these people have chosen to leave because of what we, the collective West, have done to them. So then they'll end up in our communities and our societies through no fault of their own. And don't give me this, they've passed through safe countries to get here and all that bullshit. Don't give me that crap. There's different reasons for people deciding not to stay in France, deciding not to stay in Italy, deciding not to stay in Spain and coming to the UK or coming to Ireland. There's various reasons for it. So if you've got a problem with these people coming into your communities, you need to ask yourself, first of all, why are they coming here? Now, if your answer is because they want to eat our children or whatever the fuck it is you're having dripped into your ear, you probably lost to me. I don't know what to say to you. I heard a woman yesterday. I had 3 people yesterday. Well, 2 and maybe the third. I wasn't sure what he was getting at. Just openly spouting racism at me. Not to me, about me, but about the foreigners, as they were referenced. The foreigners. That was the 3 of them all used that word. The foreigners. And one of them was going on about children not being safe. Now, Hugh Edwards, the BBC royal correspondent, who should be investigated alone just for being a royal correspondent, that's an extremely questionable profession, if you ask me. Hugh Edwards has just been prosecuted in court for finding child porn on his computer. I don't see any rats about that. I don't see anybody protesting outside his house about that. Don't see any big news stories or Tristan Tate giving people money to go and protest. Don't see that happening. Last year, a white man in England attacked a black kid with a sword. Don't see anything about that. Don't see any riots about that. Don't see white men in general being blamed. Those poor children that were killed in Stockport, although that man that did that was the children of Rwandan refugees, he was born in the UK. I don't know what his problem was. So that incident was the spark for all of this. But that incident was used as an excuse for all of this. As my friend Davey sent me in a message, he says, this, was it recreational rioting? And I suspect there's probably an element of that. But that's not to say, excuse me, that's not to say that there aren't genuine concerns in working class communities. As I said, cost of living, housing, education issues, and watching and I say, and this is the controversial bit, watching the demographic of your community change seemingly overnight is a genuine concern for some people. I would be concerned if where I lived, all of a sudden, in the space of 3 or 4 years, there was lots and lots and lots of brown and black and Asian people. I wouldn't be complaining about, I'm not complaining about, but I would be going, what's going on that this is happening? Because there's clearly something happening behind the scenes here that I don't understand. And you would be concerned. Now, I'm not saying that that's what's happening in these communities. That's what they're saying is happening in these communities. But you have to listen to what the concerns are. You have to listen. And there's the picture on the screen for those of you that aren't watching. The real war is a class war. The rich get richer, the poor stay poor, and we accept it. This is a class war, not a race war. We need to understand that. If we turn this into a race war, we are literally doing the bidding of the people that are benefiting from our labour, the people that have divided our societies for centuries, divided our community for centuries. They want us picking on somebody else so long as it isn't them. The oligarchy, the billionaires and the millionaires, the political elites. And they will send these people as fodder. They will send these people as fodder to be attacked. So, what I'm saying is, if you've got an issue and your solution is to attack these people, you don't understand the problem. You don't understand the problem. You're lashing out either because of some, as Davey says, some recreational violence. You're thick. Or you're part of the pyramid of ill-intended individuals who are doing this deliberately. So, there we go. Right, let's get to it. And that's the other thing as well. I said this to my friends and people before profit, my comrades. I'm not going to villainize people. My genuine working class brothers and sisters who have genuine concerns. But you can't be doing this. If you're involved in this, you're stepping outside of the levels, outside of the parameters of acceptable behaviour. You're stepping outside of that. And my first response to you is to protest you. I can't hear your arguments if this is your response. And this is, again, leading me to another. A riot is the language of the unheard. I can't remember who said that. So the genuine people who have genuine concerns and genuine questions, if they're rioting because they're unheard, I understand that. That's a problem as well. It's a real serious issue. I get it. The Irish government haven't got enough houses for their own people, then they're bringing in 70,000 Ukrainian refugees and handing them tents to go and sleep in the streets. It's ridiculous. That's a ridiculous situation. It's a ridiculous situation. But Ukraine is a great example. On a geopolitical, through a geopolitical lens, why is there Ukrainian refugees coming to Ireland and other places in such numbers? Because the American military-industrial complex has started a proxy war against the Russians, and they're getting fucking slaughtered. You know the opinion of me in this podcast. I don't disavow Russia and Putin and the rest, their share of the blame for the bombs they've dropped and the people that they've killed. But I do believe that this was a proxy war started by the US and NATO in order to, as Julian Assange says, start a forever war to empty the tax base of the Western public into the private bank accounts of the military-industrial complex. And the consequence of it is working class people across the world are having to deal with mass immigration in some instances, not all the time, not in some instances. And they're rightly asking questions. That's a genuine thing. What do you mean? How the fuck can you bring all these people in whenever we haven't got enough? We're shipping our own kids out. We're educating our own children to the highest standards in the fucking world, in the Western world. And then as soon as they go looking for a place to live, we'll have to send them to Australia or Canada or America just to find a house to live in. And then the poor refugees that we do bring in, we end up handing them a fucking tent and telling them they're going to sleep on a canal bank. That doesn't make any sense. That's mental. So that's what the boys were protesting. We were protesting in Dundalk. They're building a refugee centre in Dundalk. It's a fairly big building too. And the people, what are they called? Far right or whatever. These definitions are getting less and less meaningful, but nonetheless, far right protested them, so we counter protested them. So there we go. So I think you know how I'm feeling about this, and I was at this protest as well, by the way. So I was there. So we'll try to take it in some sort of linear order. I'll show you these videos and play you these videos in some sort of linear order. So this started in the UK, in England specifically, first of all. And over the weekend, just passed. And I don't know how they got so organised so quickly, but they literally, as you can see in this video, there are literal lynch mobs in Newcastle, England, where Muslims are being beaten on the street. And there's a video of it. That's horrific. Now, these are kids. And this is from UK Fact Check Politics. And as the poster put, he doesn't know if they're Muslims, but the people that are beating them up, who were just kids, were literally just looking for people with some melanin in their skin. Now here's another one. This happened in Bristol on Sunday. EDL Nazis tried to break into a refugee hotel in Bristol yesterday, and the good people of Bristol fought the racists off and successfully defended the hotel. which they did. Now, it's actually amazing that they're able to do this. Where are the police, by the way? But the answer is over 14 years of Tory government, Tory rule, the police have been decimated, literally decimated. I think I heard there's in the course of the past 20 years, there's one in 10 police stations compared to what there was 20 years ago, and that includes obviously the police officers that would man them. So the police are massively overwhelmed, and I'm not going to say all the time that that they will step up and do the right thing, because sometimes they don't. They do tend to seem to let the right wing get away with a lot more than the left wing. It seems to me. Seems to a lot of people. Here's another video. The far right are protesting outside another hotel that houses asylum seekers in Tamworth. This is Tamworth. So that's what was going on in Englandshire. Unfortunately, whatever the English can do, we can do fucking far worse. We decided that we would protest, well, not we, some people in Belfast, yeah, they would. So the Loyalists went out and protested. And when I say protested, I meant went on a fucking fire burning pogrom, like they did to Catholics in the 50s and the 60s, by the way. And as a response, our fellow countrymen in Dublin decided to come up and help them, which is super extra specially fucking sickening. And there you can see on the video, businesses in South Belfast are picking up the pieces after overnight attacks linked to anti-immigration protests. So you can see these supermarkets. As I said, I know where these are. I pass these quite often. I'd be in Belfast a few times a week. And this man, as far as I know, I think he's been in business there for 10 years or more. And then protesters destroying businesses in Sandy Row. So you can see there. People walking around, smoke in the distance. Clear to all what's going on. And there's more footage of that. Now, I'll show you that video in a wee second, actually. So this was a protest. This is the counter protest from Belfast. So whenever these protesters turn up, they're countered. This is what I was at on Sunday. This is the one in Belfast on Saturday. And we always, in multiples of 3 or 4, always outnumber the right wing. So, and this is video from that same footage here. You can see that here. It's rather scary stuff. But this is the bit. Now, this is the thing that's happened. the people coming up from there was a protest in Coolock where they did burn out some migrants. And you can see there in the video, in the corner, there's a banner that says Coolock says no. And that was the name of the protest in Coolock, which is just outside Dublin, part of the suburb of Dublin. And these people not only came up and joined in, so you can see there people walking around with Rangers tracksuits and Union Jacks, and in the background there's a fella standing there with wrapped in a tricolour in front of a couple of people holding up a massive Union Jack. Now, this is being described by some as a United Ireland, an Irish unity, and then these fucking commies, people like me, are criticising that these people have come together. These people have come together in hate. As I said, if you've got genuine concerns, we can have these discussions. I get it. But setting fire to a Syrian refugee who's had a supermarket in Belfast for 10 years and is only here because of the bombs that our governments have dropped on him. No. We're through the looking glass at that point. We can't do it. I have no time for you. I want to hear what you've got to say. But if this is a part of your expression, I can't. We're done. So I'm going to hand this little bit over to my people before profit comrade, Owen O'Callaghan. And
says no in Belfast yesterday, standing with far-right loyalists.
So Owen is a great fella. I think he's a councillor. I don't know if he got elected. I know he was running in the recent elections down in Dublin. I think he got elected. I'm not sure. But he's going to explain why this is not okay. It is not okay. You're not an Irish patriot if you can stand alongside loyalists in Belfast. And he's going to explain to you why. And the reason I'm going to let him explain it because he can do it far better than I can.
Why were Coolock says no in Belfast yesterday, standing with far-right loyalists? People claiming to be Irish patriots stood alongside Glenn Kane, who was part of a sectarian gang that battered a Catholic to death in 1990.
Sorry, put that on again.
Why were Coolock says no in Belfast yesterday, standing with far-right loyalists? People claiming to be Irish patriots stood alongside Glenn Kane, who was part of a sectarian gang that battered a Catholic to death in 1992. Yesterday's mob did Nazi salutes and chanted about British fascism.
Sorry, just realised the volume was down there. Apologies, third time's a charm.
Why were Coolock says no in Belfast yesterday, standing with far-right loyalists? People claiming to be Irish patriots stood alongside Glenn Kane, who was part of a sectarian gang that battered a Catholic to death in 1992. Yesterday's mob did Nazi salutes and chanted about British fascist Tommy Robinson, a supporter of Soldier F, who murdered Catholics in Derry on Bloody Sunday. Why stand with these people? They are obviously united in their racism, but let's look further. Look at the historical purpose of unionism and loyalism. The North was founded as a Protestant state, establishing Protestant supremacy over Catholics. Protestants were given priority when it came to housing, jobs and voting rights, which were subject to property laws. These relative benefits were given to Protestant workers to tie them ideologically to the unionist state and keep them loyal to unionist business interests. But the reality is that it didn't really raise their living standards. Protestant workers, though better off than Catholics, had worse average wages and living standards than the rest of the United Kingdom. Sectarian ideology kept them down as they were focused on staying a rung above the Catholics while the big bosses continued to exploit all the workers. A similar divide and conquer ideology drives the far-right movement across Ireland today. This is why they and the Loyalists are such easy bedfellows. They have no interest in fighting big landlords, speculators or property developers. They want white Irish workers to kick down at immigrants and black and brown people instead of up at the people in power. If they succeed, the lives of Irish workers won't get any better. They will get much worse in a racist race to the bottom. Don't be duped by them. Our enemies are not the people living in tents, it's the people living in mansions. Why were Coolock says no?
Good man, Owen. Isn't that brilliant? Nice and concise. I like that. So there's the picture of the Coolock says no banner. Now I'm going to play you some video from actually just before. Right, yeah. So I'm going to play you some video from the protest I went to in Dundalk on Sunday. And I got to interview Jack Renahan, and I think it was Mark McShane. I got a quick chat with Mark, but I got to interview Jack Renahan, who were the People Before Profit Dundalk, who are in People Before Profit Dundalk, which is why we kind of went down in solidarity with our brothers in People Before Profit, brothers and sisters, but we also went down because we wanted to counter protest these people. So I did ask Jack about the Kulak Says No thing happening in Belfast, and is it going to have a reaction to people that support them, with people that support them? And he obviously, I'll explain my thing in a minute. But here, now this is all tied in. So, Irish Patriots, right? This is a video regarding
Dundalk Says No have taken €4,500 from Tristan Tate.
So Dundalk says, so you got the Kulak Says No people, right? That's these people. These are the people that went up to Belfast. You can see in the video there, the photograph there, Kulak Says No underneath a red Hannah of Ulster flag, not the real one, the one with the crown and the Union Jack in the corner. And this is what's being sort of presented as Irish unity. I'm not joking, by the way. I actually had a friend of mine comment on, I put up a picture of a sign that I brought. Let me see if I can find it for you. Down to the protest. There it is there. Irish Patriots don't partner with British Loyalists, you fucking tits. That was my contribution. And a friend of mine commented, well, what are we supposed to do? How's that going to be a united Ireland? He said, that's not a united Ireland. Ireland is not united under this. This is fucking bullshit. And I think he was being a wee bit, and because he's from the Protestant loyalisty side of the community. I think he was being a wee bit controversial with me, and I know he's not a bad person, but regardless. So anyway, I digress. Irish Patriots funded by British sex traffickers.
Dundalk Says No have taken €4,500 from Tristan Tate, a widely known sex trafficker, fascist and British monarchist. We're going to get the inside scoop now. Get out in the streets to oppose those who take advantage of our communities where and when you can.
It's Amory. I feel I have to make this statement. And I don't run these rallies. I attended the protest last week and I was asked to speak. Tristan Tate had retweeted my speech and said to find me for him, and he wanted to fund any rallies which I was willing to hold. I contacted this man and I asked him to do a face-to-face meeting with me, and he said he would be in touch. To remind you all that I am not part of any group or hidden society. Today I received a message from Tracy O'Hanlon. She received money from supposedly Tristan Tate. Cryptic money. Now I'm a cash chick, not crypto. They bought speakers, banners, high-rise jackets and other bits and pieces. She also told me she has a couple of grand left and she's telling me how it's going to be spent. I'm shocked and confused about people, one, taking money in my name after I had been in contact with Tristan Tate. I am livid beyond belief as I feel there is something sinister going on here. Tracy O'Hanlon, I hardly know this lady. I sat down with her the other day and she mentioned nothing about this. Instead, she asked me if I would be interested in going to a secret meeting in Drogheda. I want to warn people going to these rallies. If anybody approaches you and asks you to join any party or secret society, such as one calling themselves the Irish Republican Brotherhood. Now, these are claiming to be that. It was disbanded years ago. Absolutely shocked. And I'm in the horrors. I may as well. I will not be speaking at the rally on Sunday because I can only stand and speak with the real McCoy.
So, that woman, you can see there in the pictures. There you go. More.
Dundalk Says No have taken 4.5.
So, that woman, she gave a speech at a rally previously at Dundalk Says No. And Tristan Tate, the brother of Andrew Tate, yeah, that guy, was impressed by her racism and offered to fund her. Now, why these people are getting involved in anything to do with Irish politics, and it's the same with Tommy Robinson. Now, you won't believe this. Tommy fucking Robinson, or what's his name, Yaxley Lennon or something his real name is. I'll show you this. Where is it? Oh, can't see it. But anyway, these people are all of a sudden they're concerned about what's going on in Ireland. And this is why this is all so suspicious. It's all so suspicious. I don't want to sound like a conspiracy theorist, but I'm trying to find something for you here. It's too suspicious. These people, as far as I've always known, have always despised us. And Ireland and the Irish people, they've never given a fuck about us. We were the first colony of England that these people profess to love so much. Stephen Yaxley Lennon, that's what Tommy Robinson's real name is. By the way, a son of Irish immigrants, which is fucking shameful. But now all of a sudden they're concerned with Ireland. And as Owen says, if your solution is to punch down and you don't punch up, you're wrong. You're just fucking wrong. So here is Low Key, the rapper and fucking all-around genius. He's going to explain who funds Tommy Robinson.
It's the think tanks. These are the paid persuaders and intellectual spear carriers.
Sorry, start that again. So it's the think tanks,
These are
he
the
says.
paid persuaders and intellectual spear carriers who build these social movements from above. It's a process known as astroturfing. Astroturfing is when you lead the world to believe what is happening is grassroots and is organic, but it is actually a reflection of the agency of the powerful. We look, for instance, at an organisation known as Middle East Forum, founded by Daniel Hyatt. Now the director of this think tank is Greg Roman, a former employee of the Israeli Foreign Ministry and the Israeli Defense Ministry. They received between 2010 and 2011 around $4 million from Donors Capital, a fund which is largely used to funnel money for the Koch brothers, the billionaire oil barons of the United States. Now, the Middle East Forum funded Geert Wilders. They also funded Tommy Robinson. The Free Tommy campaign was funded by the Middle East Forum. They paid his legal fees. And in fact, on top of that, Lucy Brown, a former employee of Tommy Robinson, came forward and said that he was receiving £10,000 per month from Robert Shillman. Who was Robert Shillman? He was formerly on the board of directors for the Friends of the Israel Defense Forces. Tommy Robinson has gone to the West Bank, the occupied West Bank, wore an IDF t-shirt and posed with a gun on top of an Israeli tank. He has even said, in the situation of war, he would fight for Israel.
So that's who Tommy Robinson is. And that's, now, what their motivation for starting pogroms against immigrants, migrants, refugees in Ireland. I don't get that one. I must admit, I haven't quite figured that out. But other than creating a divide and conquer strategy among the working class, that must be what it is. Again, they can get away with all of that if we're busy focusing. And this is another thing. Like, I haven't even looked at what's going on in Gaza this weekend. I wouldn't be surprised. I swear to God. So there you go. A wee reminder to myself to go and have a look at what happened in Gaza while all this shit was going on. You know, I wouldn't be surprised. I genuinely wouldn't at this point. So, here's an article from New Means, which is a Substack I found by a guy called Joshua P. Hill. Earthseed, abolition, anti-capitalism is his vibe. So, and this leads into a conversation that I had again with my people before profit comrades when we on the drive back from Dundalk, where we talked about centreism and why our liberal friends aren't going to they're not the solution to any of this. And I would throw in, I know it's not connected, but to me it is in my head, the solution that we need to fix Loch Ness, which is a huge issue, and for me it's the biggest, the number one item on my ticket, because it's a liberal is in charge of the department that has been tasked with solving the problem, and having had a look at the solutions that's being presented, it's quite clear that fuck all is going to happen. So I'm going to read from this article. Race riots conducted by lynch mobs are rocking England. A Muslim woman was attacked with acid by a far-right mob. Another mob burned down a library, and fascists roamed the streets attacking Africans and Muslims and anyone they believe to be an immigrant. The men who constitute these mobs are not just random white Brits. Many are organised into far-right gangs that kicked off this weekend of violence and terror. These Islamophobic anti-immigrant organisations promote hatred and fascism and have a history of street violence. Somewhat like the Proud Boys and other US organisations, they've compounded their ability to recruit, mobilise and terrorise through social media, as well as local fascist organising. These roving men spent their entire weekend assaulting and harassing their neighbours, targeting isolated people of colour, going after hotels and libraries and other places where immigrants get help or other people in need receive services. The new Labour Prime Minister, Keir Starmer, has condemned what he described as far-right thuggery and said perpetrators would face the full force of the law. But just 1 month ago, the Labour Party centreists, who beat the centre-right in the UK elections, were talking about their plan to smash the criminal boat gangs. These gangs, of course, referring to the people who make money transporting migrants and often refugees get across the English Channel, leading up to the recent election. Starmer also discussed plans to deport people coming from countries like Bangladesh and to make sure we actually secure our borders. This language, these plans help fuel the fire burning in England right now. When relatively more liberal parties demonise migrants and the migration protest, instead of offering an alternative that would focus on helping people in need and meaningfully addressing the factors that cause people to migrate. This is the geopolitical view, right? It shows the far right that the centre doesn't fundamentally oppose them. When it comes to the treatment of immigrants, we in the US can say that the author is obviously based in America. We in the US can see a devastatingly similar pattern. The right has spent decades demonising people seeking refuge in this country, only for the Democratic Party to turn and try to outflank the Republicans on border security. Outflanking efforts of this sort are both a moral and political disaster. When voters see one party try to move towards the position of another, which happens to consistently look like rightward movement from the major party claiming to oppose the right, it makes Liberals look weak. This process makes it look justifiably like the centre of gravity is on the right, and is one reason why recent major study of European politics determined that shifting right doesn't help centre or left-wing parties win votes. Sinn Féin should pay attention to this. But far beyond that political failure, there's a much bigger issue playing out right now. Legitimising the right's vile anti-immigrant views by trying to co-opt their positions enables the far-right vilification of refugees, asylum seekers and immigrants. Failing to present a strong alternative to the right's violent vision of deportations and destabilisations ushers in their perspective as the dominant narrative. And that dehumanising viewpoint has consequences. We're seeing it in the UK. We're seeing it in America. Fascism has risen and has been legitimised in the eyes of far, far too many people. And in the process I'm describing here has been instrumental to that far-right ascendance. This is not limited to the way the right and centre speak and think and act on immigration. Take homelessness. 1 month ago, the Supreme Court, in the US obviously, legalised the criminalisation of homelessness in their Grants Pass ruling. California's Governor Democrat Gavin Newsom has already signed an executive order using the ruling to enable mass homeless sweeps across the state, which they actually enacted. San Francisco Mayor London Breed says she plans to launch a very aggressive crackdown on homeless encampments in the city this month, and she did. The problem is not going to be solved by building more housing, she added. As she made her announcement, thank goodness for the Supreme Court decision. Now, I just have to jump in there. The problem to homelessness is not going to be solved by more housing. How the fuck is that a sentence that even come out of a human being's mouth? That is the stupidest thing I've ever heard. The problem to homelessness is not going to be solved by building housing. I don't understand this. How do you get away with that? How are you not immediately chased from polite society for saying something so fucking, and I mean this in the literal dictionary sense, so fucking retarded? I can't believe that you're able to run for public office and win it. That's staggering. It's not the only solution. There's plenty. We know that there's plenty of houses. There's plenty of vacant housing. So that's another solution. But if you presented that to this fucking halfwit, well, that's okay. Well, we're not going to build any more housing. All the houses that are vacant, we're going to open them up for people that need them. No, definitely not. We can't do that either. So what's their solution? Sweeping homeless people from their encampments where they've been forced to live. Forced to live. My brother used to live in San Francisco until recently, a couple of years ago. And he told me something that made him cry. He was driving to work and he watched a woman get out of a tent. He was stopped at a traffic light. Watched a woman get out of a tent, comb her daughter's hair, and she was dressed in her school uniform, in her clothes for school, and with her school bag and everything. And get her ready clean her face and get her ready for school. It broke his heart. It made him cry. Phoned me up and told me about it. And the solution is not to give her a home. The solution is not to open up a vacant home and let her use it. The solution is to sweep her off the street. Which does only one thing, by the way. Whenever you do this, these people have everything they own in that tent. Everything they have in the world is in that tent. And the only thing it does when you sweep these things away, which is what they did in Dublin not so long ago, a couple of weeks back, you drive people to criminality, further desperation. The only option often when you do that is you open them up into criminality and further expose them to be exploited. And by the way, where do you think young women, how do you think they get exploited when they're forced into these situations? How do you think women are exploited? How do you think children are exploited whenever these situations, this situation is their life? How do you think they're exploited? And I'm going to show you a poster later on. There's a protest planned for later in the week, and it's Protect Our Children is the thing. Protect Our Children. I think it's up in Derry, or Londonderry as it's called in the poster. No doubt these kulaks says no fucking halfwits will be attending it. So, back to the article. Here is the problem distilled down to its essence. What would solve the homelessness crisis? Housing, of course. Both a reduction in the cost of housing and simply providing housing for those that need it. It's both the ethical and cost-effective solution, rather than paying for expensive sweeps accompanied by police, which then happen again and again because the people displaced from the homeless encampments don't, of course, have anywhere to go. So they set up another encampment, and now in the wake of the Supreme Court ruling, we're likely to see more legal fees, the sky-high cost of jailing and imprisoning people who cannot pay those fees, and so on and so forth. But instead of solutions, we're seeing the systematic criminalisation of and an attack on homeless people in the United States. This approach would not be possible without rhetoric and logic that supports treating struggling human beings as failures, as less than as disposable. That logic currently proliferates on the right, but it is also widespread in the centre, where far too many people would rather have homeless people removed from their line of sight than have the underlying problem of people living without housing removed from the world. This sort of thinking, this idea that humans can and should be disposed of, enables the fascist movement. It's the same line of thinking that underpins white supremacy, misogyny, transphobia, supremacist thinking in all forms. Folks in the centre appear unaware of how the degradation of immigrants and the homeless are part and parcel of the same school of thought, and how the right uses these issues. But we're seeing that reality play out in the emboldening of the right, whose once fringe ideas, their once fringe dehumanisation of immigrants, or the homeless, or trans people, or other groups, are now all too normalised. That is immensely dangerous, because the scenes coming out of England and Northern Ireland, I interject, for example, speak to just how much confidence the far right now has. This sort of confidence leads them to go around attacking people and targeting government and community buildings. And there's a screenshot of a post of a tweet X by Mohammed Safa. No immigrant has taken your job. You were laid off by a capitalist who required cheap labour and took advantage of that immigrant to increase his profits. Nothing makes him happier than to hear you blame the immigrant and not him. Right? Isn't that it? Isn't that the crux of the matter? That's the wage, the division. Excuse me. The centre has not held. The centre has given way and given into the right's rhetoric and way of thinking on far too many issues, not just the ones discussed so far in this piece. There are more factors than can be named here, but the billionaire ownership of media, the massive and growing influence of wealth in politics, the centre's refusal to move an inch to the left, where even the fascists loom to the right. When even the fascists loom to the right. All of these and more have brought us to where we are today. The logic that homelessness will not be solved with housing, for example, should be laughable on its face. And yet the logic that dominates centrist thinking across the West, and of course the right agrees. This line of thought blames the poor for being poor, blames the homeless for being homeless, and blames the individual for everything that befalls him in a society where larger forces and massive systems act upon us and place countless people in immensely vulnerable positions. This is what you get when capitalism can do no wrong. The individual is always to blame, and the conditions that the individual struggles within are never questioned. So the profit motive in the housing market can't be blamed. The person who got fired or had a health emergency must be to blame for losing their housing. The centre has ceded all of this to the right. And if it was ever contested, and so homeless people are swept, meaning violently moved around as their belongings are repeatedly destroyed, meanwhile two numbers go up. The number of homeless people and the profits of rental companies and developers. Similarly, migrants are to blame for seeking a better life, according to the right and the centre, the destabilisation of their home countries must be ignored. The neoliberal economics that devastate job markets, wreck the ecosystems of entire countries, can't be questioned. International economic policy in this late capitalist period must be taken for granted and even ignored, because the decisions that individual people make to migrate in search of a better life might start to make sense within context. The very point I'm trying to make at the beginning of this podcast, right? So here we are. With the price of rent and the cost of buying a home rising and rising, here we are with laws that make existing in public more and more difficult. Public space is being eaten up and commodified. The new laws that criminalise homelessness are already being weaponised, even against people with homes, because how can cops or mall security tell if you're unhoused or just engaged in the devious behaviour of hanging out in a public space? It's obviously very US-centric, that last one, I think. But nonetheless, if it's happening over there now, no doubt it'll be here soon. In the UK, race riots continue as lynch mobs look for anyone who could look foreign to attack, while the people actually driving up the cost of living and ruining communities sit back and relax, and in fact fund the scapegoating of oppressed groups. Right, we're nearly done here. It's a brilliant article, and you know what I'm like. Normally I would have stopped by now, but I want to read all of this. Rhetoric that demonises the vulnerable has real material consequences. It enables race riots and allows billionaires to jack up the cost of housing while people are busy dehumanising those who can't afford a place to sleep. It leads to attacks on trans folks, queer people, women and others, and the logic that permits it all has spread far beyond its origins in far-right circles. The centre is unequipped and mostly uninterested in combating fascists and their twisted arguments. Instead, the centre concedes and even tries to outflank the right. That approach only serves to legitimise ideas that should instead be thoroughly defeated. And we can defeat these ideas. We can offer compelling alternatives as we organise to make those alternatives real. We do not, for example, need to give 1 inch on the idea that some people simply don't deserve housing and are beneath us for their inability to secure a place to live in this difficult system. Instead, we can clearly and unflinchingly put forward the idea that shelter is a right. We can house everyone, and we have an obligation to do so. The exact same approach is true for refugees, asylum seekers and migrants. There is space and resources and the wealth to go around. It just so happens that a few people are hoarding those resources, and those same few people are immensely invested in none of us turning to examine them, to examine why the few have so much while the many have so little. So whether it's immigration, housing or any number of issues, those few people desperately want us to not get down to the root and not to look at why this world is set up to extract wealth from everyone around the globe, funnel it into their bank accounts. Africa, Latin America and the Middle East. People would not be leaving these regions to come to the US, England and Europe if the ultra-rich hadn't destabilised dozens of nations with war, economic extraction. And in the West, those same people and their systems destabilise families and communities, forcing people out of their homes and into the streets. And while they have the riches, we have the numbers. We have the people, and if we collectively set our sights on the systems that oppress, and wear out and hurt all of us around the globe, we can end untold amounts of suffering. It's on us to organise and to message in such a way that it undercuts the right and the centre and the billionaires. This isn't an easy task, but it's the work that lies before us. And more people are ready. We can all feel the instability and exhaustion, the tension and pain proliferating across the world. It is now time to engage in the long-term transformative work that can end the suffering and see the dawn of a new day. So there we go. Very well put. That man. So I just want to finish on this issue. So that was a good article. I really liked that. And as the author put it, get organised. It's the only thing we can do. All these so-called movements that are coming from the top down are not organic. That's why this feels... I was talking with my buddy Sarah O'Neill, by the way. I went up to Belfast Monday. She was giving a talk about Millie, etc. and all that. Her beautiful artwork. And was sort of WhatsApping with her afterwards. And she pointed out, she's very clever, that one's very astute, great observer. And she pointed out that this doesn't feel organic. It doesn't feel right. It feels raw. It feels unnatural. That's because it is. None of this comes from the bottom up. It comes from the top down. As Low Key pointed out, the astroturfing. If you hadn't heard that phrase before, that's what that is. It's coming from the top down, but it's trying to make it feel organic. People like Tristan Tate, a fucking accused sex trafficker, hiding out in Romania, filtering money through the Dundalk fucking right-wing half-wits. And by the way, I was at that protest in Dundalk. We saw the flags turn up. They didn't turn up with their own stuff. So we were. So I'll show you the videos now, right? So watch this. Here we go. So there, we were at this protest on... It's very low. Oh no. No one might English. So there we go. So there we go. I think that level should be okay. So this is the protest I was at with my People Before Profit comrades on Sunday. And you could see the guys across the street. There wasn't many of them. Now, there was more and more turned up over the course of the hour, as there was with our side as well. But we still massively outnumbered them. And here's a few more turning up. Now you can see there's not many flags. There's not on their side. On our side there is. Everyone brought their own flags, tricolours and what have you. A couple of Palestinian flags, a couple of Antifa flags, Irish Republic flags, red flags.
That's why they're keeping you in business, lads. That's why you won't let
And this is us. We were blocked from going down the road after them. So we got organised and we walked around. I'll show you the road that we walked around, where we ended up after this. But those guys turned up. They didn't have anything. They had a couple of tricolours and things like that, which, by the way, they were treating terribly disrespectful. People were pointing out, shouting at them, "Get the flag off the ground, you tramps." And there you can see the very building behind me there, the very building that is being built to house the asylum seekers. And let's face it, that's what they are, asylum seekers, right? But at a certain point, about a half an hour into their protest, this mob turned up and started handing out flags and banners. Now that's what was paid for by Tristan Tate's money. That Anne-Marie character was complaining about not getting her hands on. The grifters, that's the definition of grifter. Right? So you can see there. So I'm going to play you a video. Jack Renahan, who's one of the People Before Profit organisers of the video, or of the protest, the counter-protest. So I got a chance to chat with him and I took it. Also, A couple of guys from Mary Wallopers were there, and I asked them would they talk to me, and they said no. They didn't want to talk. They said, no, maybe not now. It's not there. I think they were I think maybe I wanted to talk to them about being in the Mary Wallopers. I didn't want to talk to them about this. But regardless, it doesn't matter. They were brilliant. They were very loud and very, very great crack, actually. Shouting abusive jokes at the toothless across the road. So here's Jack Ranahan, my comrade from People Before Profit, who I just met moments previously, and I got a chance to talk with him. So here we go. So, introduce yourself.
I'm Jack Brennan. I'm the activist here in Dundalk. We're just here today because like the fascists have called another against immigration centres. We've seen around the country. These protests always turn violent. Burning down Dublin and Kennedy. And Dundalk, we're standing up and we're saying we're not going to let that happen. We're
Sorry, I'm going to start that again. I think that might have fucked up, but if it didn't, I apologise. But we're going to start it again. So, introduce yourself.
I'm Jack Brennan. I'm a PvP activist here in Dundalk. We're just here today because like the fascists have called another protest against immigration centre. As we've seen around the country, these protests always turn violent. We burning down buildings in Coolock, in Newtown and Kennedy, and Dundalk. We're standing up and we're saying we're not going to let that happen. We're here today. It's a united front. We've successfully repelled them for 2 weeks, and we're going to do it again today. There's more of us than them, and like we're the real will of the Irish people, not the people who went up to Belfast yesterday and marched hand in hand with Loyalists. We're here saying we're not going to let British fascists co-opt our flag and co-opt our people into doing their dirty work.
Brilliant. And what did you think of the display like yesterday in Belfast, seeing the tricolour alongside the...
It's filthy. It's filthy seeing our flag. It's been used by the Irish fascists for a while now, trying to claim it, and then they really showed their true colours yesterday, marching hand in hand with the Union Jack next to them, Loyalists next to them. And they come around, come out and take it as a victory, where it's not. That's like Ireland's never been about that. We're not anti-migrant. Like James Connolly famously said, like, let no Irishman toss a stone at an immigrant unless he hits his own clansman.
Yeah.
Like it's sickening, and it's people like Tommy Robinson. It's Herman Kelly worked getting fed bullshit from Nigel Farage. That's who these people have been co-opted by, and it's not just like they're not all fascists. It's like it's disenfranchised working class people who the country's gone to shit because of the government and austerity, and it's unfortunate that anger's been seized by these Loyalists, Westboro scum.
Yeah, good man. And do you think? I mean, well, I'm going to tell you what I think, and then I'll ask you to respond to that. Do you feel? Would you agree with the statement that they exposed themselves a wee bit yesterday with their choice of ally in Belfast?
Oh yeah, 100%.
And do you think that might echo through the country a little bit?
Yeah, you even see it. Like there's been a bit of a fracture here in the Dundalk says no side after they got $5,000 from Tristan Tate.
Saw that this morning, yeah.
To buy speakers and there's been a bit of a fracture among that because they're like, this is not some people didn't agree with that, but the shadowy organisers of it are all too happy to take money from an alleged sex trafficker, and like see it there yesterday walking up, standing hand in hand with Loyalists, burning down buildings in Belfast, chanting for Tommy Robinson to be let free. It's like they really showed themselves. And, like it should be the turning point to make the ordinary decent people who've been co-opted by the talking points of my life's hard. It's easier to blame the foreigner than to blame like the government and the lack of spending in like public services. And they should really like see yesterday like what they were doing. They were walking hand in hand with people who've terrorised Irish people for 800 years. Still, like they're talking about our country being invaded and occupied by migrants when they were happy to walk up to the occupied six counties and shake hands with Loyalists. And it's just like they don't see the irony.
Yeah.
And it's like
it's unfucking believable. I'll be honest with you, that one I never really thought I would ever see that. as twisted as I know politics can be on the ground, I never thought I would see that.
They're there, Irish fascists and British fascists, hand in hand shaking hands. We've got to take our countries back. Countries. Well, how does that work? How does like an Irishman take his country back and a British man take their country back? When the British are claiming part of our country. But they don't see that. And all they see is the whipped up fake hate for people that look different than them.
Yeah, exactly that there. So how many times have you been out here? Is this the third time
This
now?
is the third week in a row.
Third week in a row, right?
Yeah,
okay.
so first week it was a snap thing. We had a couple of days notice. We successfully seized where they wanted to protest. We didn't let them march over here, and we drowned them out, and it came out as a victory. Afterwards, Herman Kelly and the Freedom Party and all the fascist organisers went down to the Claremont, Larry Goodman's restaurant in the Blackrock, and we're having a nice meal while the frenzy they whipped up in the people of in Dundalk ended up with the public order unit like pepper spraying and arresting 3 people. And then like the next week we had more time to plan and organise, and we way more people here, and they ran away. They marched down the town to the square because they didn't like that we were training them out and there was more of us here, and we followed them around, and then like they just petered off. Then they could do nothing. They made some nasty threats on videos, but they did nothing. They were threatening to like burn them out and ram us for cars, but like they're all talk, they're all bark.
And so finally, what do you expect to happen here today?
This week, I should see the numbers. There's a handful of people on their side. Our side is a lot more people, and we haven't even reached 4:30 when we called the protest. And we're just showing like the people of Dundalk and like to the people of the country that you can stand up to the fascists and fight back. Like we won't let our town become another Coolock or new town by Kennedy, where the fascists come and we're too scared to come out and say no to them. Too scared to like stand up for what you believe in. And like we're seeing that they're getting less and less numbers on their side every week. We're getting more and more. And like it's.
Well, I think the scenes coming out of Belfast might have, if anyone was thinking twice about coming today on our side, I think the scenes from Belfast may have rallied them a little bit. And finally, sorry, I said the last one was finally, why have they chosen here? And also, just explain to my audience, why have they chosen here, and are they shipping in from outside?
Yeah, so they're chosen here because this building here is going to be used to house Ukrainian refugees, and they don't want this. Like as we've seen around, they don't want to just say voice their opinion, say no. They want to burn down buildings. That's what they do to these IPAS centres, and that's why we've chosen here in Dundalk. So
you're countering a threat of real violence?
A real threat of violence. Like they had on their videos last week. Man from one of the Coolock says no fellas, Sean Crow, was on his live stream being like, burn them out, ram them with cars. I'm sick of this peaceful shit. I want to like. Exactly. Yeah, and like after the first week of protests, they went around to where these migrants were living, just on Park Street, and the day after kicked in their front door. That's what happens when we let them go unopposed, but they haven't done violent things since, because they see that the good people of Dundalk are standing up. As you can hear.
Brilliant. Thank you, James. I'll send that on whenever. So, introduce yourself. So there we go. I said thank you, James, at the end of that. Jack, his brother's James. There's two of them. Two cool dudes. Two cool dudes in the one family, which is more than your fair share. The Ranahans, you should be ashamed of yourselves. Anyway, so thank you, Jack Ranahan, for talking to me and explaining all that. And you could see there in the video, sorry, just move this. You could see there in the video that there wasn't too many protesters on the far side. That was early on. There was quite a few more turned up but quite a few more of us turned up too. So, as I said, we happily outnumbered them by quite a considerable margin. So here, talking to, I think this guy's, I never got talked to this guy much. I think he's called Mark McShane, and we were so we got, at a certain point, then the other guys got escorted by the guards up to the town centre where they give their speeches, and a National Party fucking clown called Herman Kelly, he was there and talking shite, no doubt. Didn't get to hear what he said, but I don't need to. I've heard quite a bit from him, and I kind of know what his rhetoric, and it's a complete bollocks. So then we were then blocked from going down. So then the local guys then found a side way around past the guards, and we walked round to confront them. And as I say, I'll say it in the video later on, these guys aren't there to just show up. They're chasing them out of town. They don't want them there. So let me show you where I get to talk to Mark as we walk.
Too much stuff. Here, thanks for coming.
Hey man, no bother. Fucking necessary. Well, how'd it go for you? Can I interview you while you're here?
I think it went well. I'm a bit annoyed about the guard facilitating the fucking far right, essentially.
Are you surprised? Are you surprised though?
Not at all. I'm
Yeah.
not at all surprised. It doesn't surprise me.
And what would you say was the turnout for us compared to them?
I think we had probably 3 times the number they did at least.
Yeah.
Right, this is good. This is good. Clearly, their turnout has diminished every week since the first week. Clearly,
Really?
the Dundalk don't stand for this.
Yeah.
The people at Dundalk are on our side here.
Well, I mean, the fact that they have to ship that mob of shite in
Yeah.
is...
Good luck, lads.
Yeah. So you can see there in that video, we got confronted then by the guards where they had a wall of steel, vehicles and stuff, and themselves stop the two groups coming into contact with each other, which I kind of fucking understand, whatever. But, and by the way, before anybody points out, I am aware of the hypocrisy of me saying about shipping in a mob of shite from Dublin when I'm coming down from Lurgan to Dundalk. But the difference, what I mean to say was, most of the people that were protesting on the counter side, our side, were all from Dundalk. The vast majority of the people, apparently, I heard someone say there was like 10 to 15 locals on the right wing protest side, protesting against the immigrants. The vast majority were shipped in, right? So we know this. We know this is the truth. So this is what we're saying about things being organic and not organic, things not being real. That's not it. So it was why it doesn't feel right. So this is the last bit of video from the protest. It's me talking to the camera. There we go. You can see it there. So what's happened is they had the protest outside the new refugee centre, and the fascists turned up. The other, it was their protest, and we were the counter. And then the guards wouldn't let the counter protest, us, go down after the fascists. But the guys, being from here, obviously they went around some back streets, and this is what where we've ended up. To the guard, have created a bit of a wall of steel where we can't get through, which maybe isn't necessarily a bad thing. But the thing is, these guys, they're chasing them out of town. They're not just going to let them protest the side of the street and just stand the other side of the street and wave a flag at them. They're chasing them out. They're telling them, we don't fucking want you here. Fuck off. And most of them come up from Dublin anyway, which is unfucking believable. So there we go. That's where we are. So that's what I did at the weekend. So I think I'm done. I think I'm done with that. Again, this was supposed to be a 20-minute segment, hour and a half. As usual, it's usually the way I go. So, so there we go. Isn't it a fucking mad world? We've got one more wee thing I want to share. I'm going to talk with this one quickly, but it's absolutely fucking mad that this is where we are. I just can't believe it. Oh, I will. One last little video. I'm going to give final word on the subject to the mighty Jerry Carroll. So have a little listen. Oop. Go again.
Events, and obviously it was shocking to see horrific scenes.
Again, third time's a charm. Sorry about that. I know that the audio wasn't on there.
Folks, just want to say a few words about Saturday's disgraceful events, and obviously it was shocking to see horrific scenes by fascists and hardcore loyalists attacking members of our migrant and Muslim community, and obviously once again want to extend my solidarity to those people affected. But I think also it's worth emphasising that on Saturday we saw an important counter-protest of thousands of people, thousands of anti-racists, people in trade unions and parties, community groups and right across the board, who said really these people are mobilising, not in our name. I think that's very, very important we keep up that pressure on the streets. And I know on Saturday, United Against Racism and other groups are calling people to come out once again at 12 o'clock to take a stand. So I want to encourage people to come out and join that demonstration. Bring your neighbours, bring your family, bring your friends, and bring everybody. I think there was also, given what happened on Saturday, I think there's serious questions about the role of the police and how they handled events at the weekend. This event, this racist mobilisation was known about for a while, and we saw people left their own devices, not protected and not given support. So there's massive questions that they need to answer, and we'll be raising this in Stormont and elsewhere. Folks, just want to say a few words.
So there we go. By the way, just for anybody, any of my Lurgan friends or local friends, there's a Lurgan Against Racism group has just started up. If you want added to that, let me know, and I'll get you added to it on it's a WhatsApp group, and we kind of do a lot of our organising on that. And there's also the Lurgan branch of the Irish Palestinian Solidarity Committee, which I'm a member of as well. So if you want added to that, let me know as well, and I can get you added to that, and then you can stay in touch and on top of turning up, because you do hear quite a lot. I've got friends that are deeply, deeply concerned about what goes on in Gaza, and I've been to protests in the past themselves, and sometimes they say, I didn't know anything about this. Well, let's try and stay in communication and communicate with each other, and we will hopefully try and make sure that doesn't happen. And also, if you want to join Lurgan People Before Profit, let me know, and we'll get you. Well, you can just join on the website, but we can add you to the group. Go to the People Before Profit website and click join. It's as simple as that. £10 a year, bada bing, bada boom, done. So now. I'm going to talk about this. This is a real quick one. This is me finishing this up now. And the reason I'm talking about this is I had a bloody dream last night. Or let me put it another way. I had a nightmare last night. And it's because I'm aware of this happening. And as far as I know, it's not being discussed very much, if at all, on the mainstream media channels. And it's about the nuclear threat. The Cold War has effectively started up again. And, well, I'll read it here. Check this out. And I had a dream I had a very vivid dream about a nuclear attack, and we were in it, and what we were, and I was with my family and trying to get to my family, and I woke up in a cold sweat. So I thought it reminded me I must talk about this with you. So here's an article from The Guardian. Moscow angered by US plan to sight long-range missiles in Germany. Military scheme agreed to by NATO called a serious threat, while weapons experts warn of a new arms race. The US announcement of a plan to station long-range missiles in Germany for the first time since the Cold War has set off a diplomatic furore between Washington and Moscow and elicited comparisons to the European missile crisis of the 1980s. For those of you that are quite young, you won't remember this, but I do. I remember the threat of nuclear fucking annihilation being a genuine ongoing daily concern that people lived with. It was shit. Russian and US officials both accused each other of provoking the escalation on Thursday, as arms control experts warned that the deployments of missiles on the European continent after the collapse of the Intermediate Range Nuclear Forces Treaty, the INF Treaty, could fuel a new arms race. The decision to station non-nuclear Tomahawk cruise, SM-6 and hypersonic missiles in Germany from 2026 was welcomed by Germany's Chancellor Olaf Scholz, who said it fitted exactly into his government's security strategy. It's fucking unbelievable. How Germany has just allowed itself to be cooked. I mean, I thought we were any less so. We do have fucking a military base masquerading as something else in Shannon. But how Germany has allowed itself to be cooked with the fucking destruction of the Nord Stream pipeline, and now this, and the destruction of the Nord Stream pipeline has led directly to the fucking inflationary crisis that's happening in Germany. Again, cost of living crisis that's happening. That's starting to filter through in Germany now. The destruction of the German industrial sector. And who do you think that's all going to end up being filtered down to? The fucking migrants again are going to get it. As from the article I read earlier on, that trans people are going to get it, women are going to get it, minorities are going to get it. They're the ones that are going to be blamed. But in fact, it's fucking America and the German government itself. Back to the article. Schultz said the decision had been long in the making and will come as no surprise to anyone who was knowledgeable about security and peace policies. But Moscow did not see it that way. You don't fucking say. Russia's Deputy Foreign Minister Sergei Rybakov issued a stark warning to Berlin, insisting Moscow would respond militarily to the situation, which he said aimed to impair Russian security and not go unanswered. Now, what I know about this is, what this has done is, if there's an attack... Now, Russia, in its constitution, or its version of its constitution, has said it will not use nuclear missiles first, but it will respond in the case of an attack. So, once its sovereignty, once its sovereign territory is under attack, that can trigger that, right? And by placing these missiles in Germany, where do you think they're pointed? They're pointed directly at Moscow and other parts of Russia. That puts the Moscow response time down to between 1.5 minutes and 3 minutes. So that means they have this, and this is the big issue. Their response time, they have to determine within that 90-second to 3-minute window whether they're going to respond with is this a nuclear attack, and do we respond likewise, as we are constitutionally obliged to do so. And that's why this is so fucking frightening. So, from Politico, on the same story, Putin threatens retaliation if US deploys long-range missiles in Germany. Russian President Vladimir Putin threatened tit-for-tat response should Washington deploy long-range missiles in Germany, saying Moscow would answer by placing similar missiles within striking distance of the West. Oh, duh. Of course he will. Washington and Berlin announced earlier this month that the US will deploy, etc. You know about this, I've already read this. Missiles have significantly longer range than the current land-based fires in Europe, the White House said in a statement. The move is meant to show the US's commitment to NATO and its European allies. The move puts its European allies under threat of a nuclear winter. In a speech on Sunday to mark Russian Navy Day, Putin accused the US of escalating tensions, saying, "We will take mirror measures to deploy," taking the account of actions of the United States, its satellites in Europe and other regions of the world. The Intermediate Range Nuclear Forces Treaty, signed in 1987, banned ground missiles with a range of more than 500 kilometres. The US withdrew from the treaty in 2019. That was Donald Trump, by the way. Citing Moscow's development of the 9M729 ground-launched cruise missiles, known in NATO circles as the SSC-8. Now that we have withdrawn, the Department of Defence will fully pursue the development of these ground-launched conventional missiles as a prudent response to Russia's actions, etc., etc., etc. So, this is we're back in the Cold War, which suits who? Doesn't suit me. Doesn't suit you. Suits the military-industrial complex, and only the military-industrial complex. Literally nobody else. So Germany's been allowed is allowing itself to be used as a fucking missile launcher, a rocket launcher. That's it. And of course, Russia's going to respond. Of course, Russia maybe did it. I don't know. I'm not completely au fait with this particular aspect of the story, but perhaps Russia did start this with the development of this hypersonic missiles. Perhaps that was the start of it. I'm not sure. So, again, these things suit no one. Don't suit humanity. They don't suit the continuation of life on Earth. So there we go. There's the pod. Whew! That was heavy today, wasn't it, boys? Boys and girls. Well, listen, thanks for watching. Please like, share, subscribe. As I said before, if you're from the town or it's villages and you want added to any of those groups I mentioned, Palestine Solidarity Committee or the anti-race Lurgan Against Racism group, let me know and I will get you added. Yeah. As always, politics, culture and some other shit on Patreon, where you'll be able to listen to all these, watch these videos, listen to these podcasts without adverts. And if you want to, you can go watch it on YouTube. I do upload it to YouTube, but you'll have to bear the adverts. So there we go. So that's me. I'm done, everybody. Happy Wednesday, the 7th of August. Like, share, subscribe, and we'll catch you on the flip side.